I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to welcome all of our friends and neighbors and colleagues and joining us in this regularly scheduled December 4th, 2023 City Council meeting. As you come in tonight, there will be a desk which will be to my right, to everyone else's left. Set of double doors, walk through those doors, there's a desk. On that desk is a sign-in sheet. If you're a guest with us tonight, please sign in. City Clerk, can I have a roll call?
Councilperson Morrissey.
Here.
Palladino.
Here.
Pratt. Here. Sharp.
Here.
Soha.
Present.
Stucho.
Here.
Veer.
Here.
Wolfram.
Here.
Mayor Stockford.
Here.
All present here.
Thank you, Katie. We'll move into approval of agenda. City Manager, any council members have any changes they'd like to see made to the agenda tonight? Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Motion on the floor from Councilman Morrissey, seconded by Councilwoman Pratt. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. We've got an agenda. We'll move into public comment on agenda items only. During this time, the podium will be open. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes. Please limit your trips to 1 to the podium. Remember, this is public comment on agenda items only. So please, if you're going to discuss anything during this time, make sure it has a direct tie, something present on the agenda. With the exception of the public hearing, adopt ordinance to amend section 36.431, 36.432, article 1 and article 4 of chapter 36. We're going to have a public hearing on that, so if you're here to talk about that, please save your comments for the public hearing. The podium is now open.
Joseph Hendy, 181 Rear Street. Mayor and Council, I stand before you with great pleasure to extend my heartfelt congratulations on the city's successful completion of the recent audit. As we celebrate this achievement, it is also crucial for us to address the concerns regarding the alleged violations of our city charter and state constitution related to the appointment of board members to the Board of Public Utilities. I urge city officials to provide clarity on the steps taken to resolve this issue and ensure that our governance adheres to the highest standards. To my knowledge, not one board member represents the residents of the city of Hillsdale. These board members all represent commercial power, and none of them are qualified electors of the city. And the reason I bring this up is because I don't want to see this get passed to the next mayor and nothing be done about it. I'd like you to address the issue. I'd like to know what's being done with this or the steps that have been taken, because we're in violation of the charter and the state statute. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. Any more public comment? Seeing none, we'll close the podium. We'll move into the consent agenda, which is short. Approval of bills, city BPU claims of November 16th, payroll of November 23rd, city council minutes of November 20th, and finance minutes of November 20th. Any discussion on any of these items? Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved. Support.
Motion on the floor from Councilman Morrissey, seconded by Councilman Veer. May it please have a roll call vote?
Councilmember Palladino.
Yes.
Pratt.
Yes.
Sharp.
Yes.
Soha.
Yes.
Stucho.
Yes.
Veer.
Yes.
Wolfram.
Yes.
Mayor Stockford.
Yes.
Councilperson Morrissey.
Yes.
All approved.
Thank you, Katie. We'll move into communications petitions. Item letter A, CL Real Estate Kiefer House construction update, and I see Nick's here. Nick.
Here.
Good evening. Another good report. After the last couple of weeks, even with the holiday in there, we got quite a bit done. Got a lot of more of the structural steel done. If you saw the crane out there this morning, They brought in one of the main beam down the second floor, and they were getting that set in place today. There's also we started framing on the second floor as well for the actual hotel rooms. So everything has been going very well. The back seems to be completely cleaned out now as far as the back area, the spoils. So everything's going well.
The back looks great, Nick. Thank you. Thank you for your consistent work.
Absolutely.
I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Any questions for Nick?
See you soon.
See you soon.
Looking really good.
Well, honestly, if anybody wants a tour through there, feel free to contact me. I'll walk you through.
Thanks, Nick. Appreciate it.
All right, thank you.
Yep. We'll move into item letter B in communications petitions, 2024 construction project update. Kristen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and council members. Last week, I presented this construction project update to the traffic summit, which was held here at City Hall with all the Hillsdale County road entities. And Dave thought I should present it to you as well. Essentially, this is just an update as to the construction projects that we'll have in town starting next year. First one, obviously, is the Westwood area, which consists of from Lewis Drive on Westwood Street going west, and then the entire, I don't know the name of that subdivision, Westwood Drive subdivision, Sumac, Scenic, Picardy, Azalea. Did I miss yours, Corona?
Corona, yeah,
Yeah,
like
okay.
it used to be as in the beer, but now it's
So, and that will start, the contractor gave me a tentative schedule. They're planning to start mid-March. They're planning to start on the eastern half of the project, which would mean from Lewis going west on Westwood Street, Highland and Glendale. And they're going to complete that whole portion of the project to base paving before they even do anything on the other half of the project, which is good. We have more utility on that part of the project, so that's going to take the longest. They're planning to base pave sometime about mid-July. The most notable thing with where we're starting is we have to close the intersection at Lewis and Westwood Street to get work done under the railroad. So that'll be closed for 2 months, and we'll have a posted detour and such for that. And then they will flip over to do the west half of the project, and then they plan on, at least the current schedule says, paving by the end of October. The second big project we have going on in town is the citywide water valve replacement. We have 65 to 70 water valves that have to be replaced. As you'll see in a future actually I could probably just go forward. That's the Westwood project with its proximity to M99. Obviously, it's that large portion. Then this shows all the valves, all the red dots on there are all the valves that have to be replaced throughout the city. This will cause large areas of water outages. They will only be daily, but people will be on boil water notices after we do this work. I have gone through and pretty much vetted all of these water valves in an effort to find out who's going to be impacted to limit these impacts. It's possible it could be 2 consecutive days that you'd be out of water, but it would be only 1 boil water notice. The asterisk in all of that is there are other valves that very possibly won't shut down. So it's very possible that during any one of these valve replacements, we will have a larger area than what we anticipated, but we're making every effort to try to keep these as minimal as we can. Obviously, we have to work around Hillsdale College's schedule, the public school schedule, businesses that we will impact, and we're very cognizant of that fact. And we will be notifying people as soon as we know what's going to happen. We don't have any dates on any of this. This contractor is looking to start in February or March of next year as well. The sanitary sewer portion of that CDBG grant project are all of these. The red are total replacements of sanitary sewer and or the construction of a new lift station or enforce main. All the green sections are going to be lined. The lining is going to be small impacts, a couple days in that area. We'll move on to another area. The reconstructions of the sanitary sewer, St. Joe and Mechanic Street will probably be a couple week duration of time. we will have mechanic completely closed when we're doing that section. We have to move the sanitary sewer into the road. The force main will be, and that's on Marion Street, and the lift station construction will be a longer duration project. I don't yet have a schedule. That may be earlier in the year, but we're having a discussion on it next week. And the section of sewer we have to replace on Willow Street might be a little bit longer duration because that sewer at the deep end is 25 feet in the ground. So that will take some effort to get done. So the other project we have going on next year and is currently bidding through the MDOT system is the St. Joe and Griswold project. We will know on January 5th if we have any bidders and what those prices will be. And at that point, assuming everything is copacetic with the bids, we will move on, and that's a July 8th start date with a completion date of sometime in mid-November. So those are the projects that we will have going on next year. I was told that there was possibly a question regarding maintenance costs. Do you want to ask your question, or you want me just to go ahead with the slide?
Yeah, I mean, currently in Hillsdale, we have roughly 50 miles of paved roads.
40.
It's actually 40?
It's 23 and change.
43 altogether.
43 and change, sorry.
Okay, 43 and change. And then currently on a maintenance schedule, Kristen, how many miles should the city be addressing per year? Just, you know, I know right now we got kind of behind the 8 ball. Would it be a safe, it's like maybe 2.5 miles per year?
You know, it's honestly, I can't really give you a number. A lot of what maintenance techniques we use on a road is based on the condition of the road. So, like crack filling, we'll try to do those on roads that are rated on a 10 scale, the 6, 7, or 8. So, I'm not sure if we did last year. Did we crack fill the Hillcrest area last year?
We did not. Okay, next question.
So the area we paved in 2021 is due to be crack filled here in the next year. And Jason will kind of follow the road construction projects with the crack sealing, because we want to keep those roads at the high end of the 10 scale, 10 being a perfect road that we just reconstructed. So we are employing all of these. This slide is not in your packet because I added it after the fact. But these are the relative costs for different things. Crack filling is obviously something we do in-house. Cost to do a mile of road is about $4,800. And you can see the cost of a reconstruction at the low end, which is $1.9 million. That's for a mile of road. So it is the intent with the mix of fixes is that we employ all of those when the roads are at the proper condition for those. The problem Hillsdale has is their road infrastructure has been let to decline so badly that most of our roads are in the area where it needs a significant rehabilitation or reconstruction, which there's no point in us doing crack fill on it because it's beyond crack filling. It's beyond doing a non-structural overlay or a mill and resurface. So it's hard to give you that number. I can tell you that when we rated this year, back in July, that about 11 miles of our streets are in fair condition, and that is both major and local combined. So that being said, those are the ones that we would focus, the rehabilitation, crack fill, overlays, and such things as that. And we're building that program. Every year we're trying to do something a little bit more. We've done chip seals in the past, but there's not a lot of candidates out there for that kind of work. But what I really wanted to show here is, once we get a road reconstructed, the job of the DPS and the maintenance folks is to keep that road at a 6, 7, or 8 scale and not have it fall down to the poor condition. Because obviously, it's more economical for us to fix that road and do some non-structural or structural type light fixes because of the dollars that are attached to that. So.
And then right along with that, Kristen, what would you say, okay, so we're doing all these reconstructs and putting those new roads in with proper maintenance as far as doing the, you know, maintaining that acceptable level, 7 or higher on a 10-point scale. What would be the life of said road for the most part?
Well, if left untouched and nothing ever happened to it, you get 18 years, 15 to 18 years out of it. If you start doing maintenance, the third column, the column on the right, is extended service life. So if you come in and you do a 1.5 mill and overlay at sometime in the life of that pavement, when it gets down to like a 6, you'll get another 8 years out of that pavement. So the deterioration curve in the middle part of that rating system falls very quickly. So the point is that if you catch that road when it's on the decline and then employ one of these, you then reset that rating back up to a 7 or 8 or 9 even. So that's what you want to keep doing. At some point you get to the point where you can't do those fixes and you have to do something more significant. But you can extend that. I would have to go back and look at the slides that Michigan Tech provided me for some other stuff, and you can probably get 30 years out of the payment by doing good maintenance on it.
30 years.
Yeah.
And the reason why my questions is the fact that right now the city, or actually the public, we passed that extra millage to be addressing the road issues. We're getting more aggressive on addressing bad areas, the Westwood project, St. Joe. And at the same time, we've asked the taxpayers to actually kick some in from their standpoints and their purses. And I guess my concern is that going forth in this next budget, that this council being that, I know public safety is #1, roads being #2, that we really need to look hard, long and hard at how we're spending our limited funds and possibly get more allocation toward the public service. So all this work, all this pain that we're to get the roads back to acceptable levels, we're able to maintain them at that level and don't neglect them like past councils have done. So, and that was kind of my main thing, is we've been putting a lot of effort into getting these roads back to acceptable level, and the fact that I actually contend that having safe roads, sidewalks for our constituents to use is, in my opinion, part of public safety too. So, but thanks, Kristen.
Yeah, I do want to point out, a couple of years ago when we started talking about these special assessment districts in the millage, I had done an analysis of the current system and what funding level you have to be at to increase the whole system. Our funding level right now is a funding level that will maintain it at level or slightly above level. At 3.5 mils in our street millage, plus the special assessments, plus what we have in the charter, we don't have a lot of extra cash. And we can address all those roads in 10 years, which is what the millage was for, correct, Mr. Mackey? 10 years was on that millage? Yes. So, the thing that we need to think about is this needs to be long-term funding. The funding is going to get even worse if we start employing more electric cars, because all our funding is gas tax. So as people aren't purchasing gas, there's less funding to go around in the state for roads, because 100% of our money and a little bit on car registration is how we fund our roads in the state. So we have to start, and it's not us, at the state level that needs to start being addressed, because we're going to start losing revenue because of electric cars. And quite frankly, if people are traveling because they don't have the funds to do so, they're spending less gas as well. So that all starts to filter down to us. So, it's an unfortunate situation and needs to be addressed at the state level, but our funding has been this way for many, many years. And with what they require us to do with the money they give us for gas tax, we don't have but $200,000 left when we're done with all of just Jason's maintenance, plowing, signs, pavement markings, sidewalks, all of that stuff, all come out of that same pot of money. And at the end of the day, we have $200,000 left in just the major street fund. The local street fund runs in the red every year. And we have to use the charter money to balance that budget, which leaves us about $150,000 outside of the millage to do road construction. So, and I hate to be bleak about it, but it's the reality of the situation. And we're making a lot of strides. And Jason is fully on board with doing whatever piece of maintenance he has to do, and we're going to continue to do those as we finish these roads.
And then Kristen, so if the roads were satisfactory right now, our current spending with the millage and everything, would probably maintain them at an acceptable level. Would that be fair to say? If we
With
were
the
at-
millage and with the funding we have currently, if our roads were, if our average rating was somewhere like 5 or 6, yeah, we would be able to maintain that. We'd probably be losing ground a little bit, but we could keep it a lot better than what we're at now. Because I have, on our current rating, we have 10.5 miles of road that are rated a 2 on a 10 scale. A 1 being a road that the gravel's coming up through. So that's the Westwood, those are 1s. We have another 10 miles that are a 2. So they're right on the edge of just totally losing their pavement. And this is based on the defects we see on the surface. That's how we rate roads. Everybody in the state does it the same. A 2 in Hillsdale is the same as a 2 in Adrian and a 2 in Lansing. They all look the same. But, you know, unfortunately, with all the experience I've had with roads, this is by far the absolute worst road system I've seen in my 25 years of doing road work at municipal level. So, but we're working on it. We're getting it back, and we will continue to do so.
And then right along with that, Kristen, so how much additional, I mean, because right now we're kind of underwater with the roads because we're starting at a real negative. As far as to maybe, like when we're swimming upstream, as far as to actually make some progress, how much more would you think that if the council would decide to spend on public service would it take to actually stop the decline and actually start getting a better result at the end?
When I ran these numbers back in 2020, in order to be on a positive incline, we had to be at 6 mils funding.
6 mils?
And we are at 3 and 3.5 right now.
3.5.
So you're talking another 2.5 mils.
But I'm thinking we're at our max as far as.
We are.
Okay, yeah, as far as our millage side.
Well, and we have been, more so than any municipality I've worked in, we've been very aggressive at getting grants. But the problem with grants is, you know, we were just rejected on our B grant for Manning Street and our B grant for all the chip seal around the city. And we just got a rejection on the F grant for Manning Street. And the problem is that every municipality is applying for that money. We got B grant money several years ago, so that kind of bumps you to the bottom of the list, so we keep trying. So, you know, we put these in every year, we keep asking. I figure if we just keep putting in front of them, one day we're gonna get one. But that funding is generally on just the major streets. So it doesn't address local streets. And every city has the same problem with funding local streets. Most have millages. I say most. Most that I've worked with have had millages and or some sort of general fund allocation to roads that is earmarked only for roads. Because I've seen it where it gets earmarked in the general fund, but it gets used for something else because some emergency comes up and we have the money there. So.
And I was noticing in the packet too, the state is gonna be redoing Broad Street, taking the 4 possibly down. We're gonna do a traffic study or a traffic diet, I think is what they call it. And so what portion, because those are included in that 40-some miles.
That is not included in that.
Oh, that is not?
No, and all the numbers I've given you and that we do on ratings are only our local and major streets.
That we're responsible for?
Yes. That is from City Hall to
Steve.
Hallett, not Steenberg, because they repaved that some years ago. And we have talked with them about potentially going from a 4-lane section to a 3-lane section at Road Diet for safety reasons and all of that. But that's still being looked at by the state and by us.
Well, thanks.
You're welcome. Anybody else have any questions?
You may.
3.5 mils comes out to $570,000, I believe. Is that correct?
Somewhere in that ballpark.
About 550.
Okay, that's 3.5 mils. Jonesville collects 4.65 mils, and they've been on the ball for quite a while over in Jonesville. Just drive their streets, and you'll see the difference of what they've had, the vision. Our biggest problem was the former director did not believe in chip seal. And that would have saved some of our roads, as you show on your thing here. It gives it longer life. But the former director refused to do that, and we are paying the price for it. Thank you.
Thank you, Bruce. Any more questions for Kristen? Thank you, Kristen, for that encouraging, but also. Well, Gary knows the answer. The state's gotta increase the revenue sharing, and the changes have to be made at the state level, and we're doing what we can here, and
Yeah, just to say, I put out a piece looking at what happened to revenue sharing, and we just had this, from 2008, you had this general collapse in revenue sharing, statutory revenue sharing, and it's still not back to where it was in 2008 in terms of adjusted for inflation. And you had the same thing that went on with Proposal A, and when Proposal A was passed, everybody thought property taxes were only going to go up. But they didn't say, oh yeah, but what happens if property taxes go down 25%, and they can only go up by 5% of the rate of inflation until they get back up. And so you had this collapse, and then you couldn't get back up to where they were. And so it's been decades till the basically state equalized value, taxable value is back to where it was. I'll have to send you an update of my piece that I wrote on that. But yeah, I mean, we should really be talking to our state senator and our state rep about this revenue sharing issue.
yes, sir.
The numbers that I put together on the maintenance stuff, it was actually quite discouraging because I started off with numbers that were from 2019 and from 2019 to 2023. And I'm using numbers from projects that I've done around town. So we're using regional numbers. I'm not comparing us against Detroit, but those numbers were twice as much as what they were in 2019 because of the cost of construction now. And that's the frustrating thing is our gas tax funds aren't going up the same as the rate of inflation for just goods, services, and materials.
Well, I can tell you, when I got on council in 2013, the estimate was $1 million per mile of road construction, of complete reconstruction, and now it's almost double that. So, and
Yeah, and like I said, this isn't just pulling numbers out of the sky estimates. These are actually from the projects that we've done around here, and those numbers reflect that.
sure.
Because obviously regionally, they change, because getting materials here versus getting materials in Detroit are different.
Yes. Robert had a question.
Thank you, Mayor. I was just curious, what percentage of the road revenue is from the gas tax? Approximately.
Well, it's all but the, actually, ran the estimate here. We get just shy of $900,000 on the major street system and gas tax. And then we get $280,000 for the local street system. And we get the 3.5 on this budget form, which was done way back, was $500,000. And then our millage, or 500 from the millage and 365,000, so that's 800,000 for just those two. So we have about $1 million to share amongst all 40 roads. And then the millage and the charter funds bring in another 800,000. So, but of that million that we get in gas tax, we got to take all the maintenance and plowing and all of those things out. So when those things are taken out, the administrative costs are taken out, there's only 200,000 left. So you get $1 million in, and you have 200,000 left at the end of the fiscal year. And I'm talking numbers that have tracked over 15 years. When I built this budget to help Jason out and Jake, I built it out with history of 10 to 12 years, which is very consistent. So, and he's cognizant of these numbers in an effort to try to trim his costs down. But again, cost of doing business every day, and his costs are getting more expensive as well. I mean, we've done things just to free up his staff by contracting out our pavement markings, which his crew used to do. And we're doing it by every other year, and that saves us labor so that the guys can do crack filling, because we'd rather have them doing that, preserving roads. So there's things we've been doing and employing, but you still have to do it. You still have to put the pavement markings down.
Thank you, Kristen. All right, let's move on. Item letter C in communications petitions is Mitchell Research Center's Holiday Open House. This is, of course, at the Mitchell Research. It is this Saturday, which is December 9th. Opens at 10, doors close at 2 p.m. So I encourage everybody to attend that. Item letter D is 2023 Best Decorated Home Business Contest. Those are the two categories. First place $100, second place $75, third place is $50. This is through the BPU and it's open to all BPU customers. Item letter E, Toys for Tots thank you letter. This is from Pam, and she's thanking us for taking part in Toys for Tots, which we do every year. Item F is a Comcast letter, and item letter G is a commissioner update from Commissioner Ingalls, which you guys all have on your, should all have in front of you here. The high points are the budget, which will be published November 28th, or which was published November 28th, 2023 at the Board of Commissioners meeting agenda, and you can find that on the Hillsdale County website. Any questions, discussions on any of the items we just went through in communications petitions? Okay, seeing none, we will move on to to introduction and adoption of ordinances, public hearing. Adopt ordinance to amend sections 36-431 and 36-432, Article 1 and Article 4 of Chapter 36, accessory buildings in residential districts. We're now opening the public hearing and...
This isn't a public hearing. The public hearing was held at the Planning Commission in November.
Oh, okay.
This is just.
Okay, so we're just adopting the
Yep.
ordinance.
Yep.
Okay, well, very good. Then I lied to the public. You guys don't get to comment right now, so. Go ahead, Helen.
I just wanted to see if anyone had any questions. What we did was, in order to be proactive and be able to address the increased desire to construct and add solar ability to, renewable energy to private residences and private businesses. The Planning Commission undertook the time to update the accessory building and accessory structure ordinance in order to allow for solar energy systems, so SES, and the ordinance in front of you is that includes those changes.
Okay, thanks, Alan. So we didn't allow for it before?
It was allowed, but not with control over, heights and where you put, as far as distance from property lines and that type of thing.
Okay, so this is actually removing liberty from people.
A little bit. It's
Okay.
it's controlling how you include it and add it to your property so that you don't inadvertently annoy your neighbor.
Very good. Any questions for Alan? Councilman Beard?
I just, actually it's in your packet on page 33, section 1, and it's, section 1B, it just basically says the accessory building and or accessory structure does not create a nuisance or hazard. And I'm kind of curious on what would signify a nuisance. That'd be on page 33.
Yeah, that's actually the old ordinance. That wasn't
part of
an
the old,
update.
okay.
Yeah, that's part of the original ordinance.
And then,
I can tell you some things from a solar farm or solar energy system perspective.
okay,
Glare, the noise to the extent there are any kind of inverters involved.
like
there-
sound?
are some things that could be a nuisance, especially in a, you know, if you're in a residential neighborhood, all the buildings were fairly close together, all the lots. So it would be under what the definition of a nuisance is under Michigan law, which you couldn't do anyway. I mean, your neighbors could sue you if it was a nuisance, so.
Okay.
But it was already in there just because, you know, that way you're not building a garage that is too tall or creates more shadow or, you know, or in some way, inadvertently, creates a nuisance or an annoyance for your neighbor.
And then if you go, on page 33 also, it's on-site ground mounted solar systems. And it's two, and actually, I stand corrected, it's, it has in compliance, it's on D actually. On D, and that'd be on, page 34, it's a ground mounted, is not subject to property line setbacks for common property lines of two or more participating lots, except the right-of-way setbacks. Is that implying that if you get with your neighbors and you wanna do a joint one, or I guess I didn't follow?
It was in the event that you actually own two lots,
Okay,
you could, and you have joined those two lots, you can.
would you have to legally join them, or could you have, on the legal definition, could they say separate? And as long as you sold the whole entirety of both lots?
Which is why you combine, which was why we would require that you combine those two lots, but yeah.
Okay. And then I also had a question on 35, on the 25 feet in height, that's for the structure, it's for detached accessory buildings. Does that include if you were to do a structure mount, the total height of it would be 25 from the ground?
And that's actually for a building, it's for just like a garage,
Right, for a garage.
yeah.
And if you were to put a solar mounted system on top of the garage, you're limited on the height of that. I think it's implying at the highest angle.
And then, that actually winds up, I think that was actually covered somewhere else under the, under.
Yeah, no, they did have to talk about height restrictions.
Above
the minimums.
above the existing roof height.
Okay. And then just one last question. Basically, most of this ordinance kind of implies it's about dealing with, whether it be businesses or individuals, putting in solar panels on their home structures, ground, so forth, as long as they have the setbacks. But if you go on the last of it, the last part of it, on number 13, on the last page, it says no wind generating energy systems shall be permitted.
Yes.
So as part of this, we do not allow a wind generator?
Well, that was the planning commission's decision after looking at what the suggestions were as far as decibel control and vibration and shadow and there's a term for it, but I can't come up with it, where the blades actually create a light dark shadow, almost like a strobe effect.
Flicker.
And they just decided not to permit that in the city because there were so many. They just felt there were too many detrimental issues involved.
Now, weren't they thinking that more in terms of those giant ones, those, you know,
No, they were thinking about the residential.
like the small one?
Mhm.
So like,
The
farmers.
larger ones wouldn't have been allowed anyway just because of height restrictions.
Height restrictions. Okay, well, I mean, and it kind of threw me because it's, the whole way through, you're talking about solar generation. We're talking about transitioning to electric cars. Our energy companies need to be 100% renewables. The major ones, the city municipalities, have a little more leeway in the near future. And at the same time, then you're saying that as residents, if you wanna go down that same path, you're restricting one of the options as far as I'm creating energy.
Well, I mean, between fall requirements and like I said,
Well, I
the notice
understand
and that
that,
type of thing, they just decided that that wasn't something that they wanted to pursue.
because as part of the solar have in and of themselves some issues too. That's why you have the
Yes.
setback
Yes.
requirements, and that's why you address the glare requirements. And I just don't see why you just get rid of the solar, or the wind portion of it because of some issues with it, and why wouldn't you maybe address those?
They
As
felt
far as-
that the issues with solar were less, had fewer negative issues and impacts than wind. And so they chose to eliminate wind as an option.
Okay, any more questions? Councilman Stucci?
Yeah, I just have one for David. Do we get any, or does the BPU get any green credits for any percentage that private use installs this?
We don't get any, sure. For individual, we do not. But we have solar and wind
Yeah, I know.
projects that we are invested in and receive
If
energy
20%
from.
of the community did this, you wouldn't see any green credits for that?
It's possible,
Okay.
but yeah, unfortunately, there is the sound, as they had determined is a serious issue. I mean, you talk to the folks who live by the big wind turbines and you can hear them swishing. I think as far as we go, as in green in the future, I think the technology is still advancing on solar and other things that probably wind is not going to be where it goes, but
Councilman Wolfram?
I just have a simple question here. When you look at the ordinance, this is an amendment to the ordinance, right?
Yes.
So the bold is the new language,
Yes,
and everything else is old language.
yes.
That's what I was thinking, but when Councilman Beer was reading a lot of the old language, and so I just wanted to make that clear, that this amendment is only the bold part is the amendment part.
Correct.
Any more questions for Alan?
For Gary, where's the bold? I'm not picking up.
Yeah, I don't have bold either, but
I mean, I might
it's
be
the,
colorblind or something, but
Like the one that I have, like on page 32, it says the city of Hillsdale ordains that, that's only bold, and then definitions, building integrated solar energy system is in bold. It's like all capital.
on the top part, right?
Right.
Okay.
So just the parts that have, the top part is just all capital, that is the amendment. And then, so, that building integrated solar system is all new, but then the part where it says accessory buildings and down at the bottom of page 33, all that, and the top of page 34, the top of page 33, that's all old language.
Right.
All
That was-
accessory buildings shall
that's
be
correct.
permitted in all zone districts, subject to compliance with all the following, that's all old language, that's already there.
I think Councilman Beer was talking about with the heights, if you were to add something to solar, whatever, to the top of your building, that it would affect the old language because it would add height onto your building.
Yeah, because Alan, was that 25 feet on an accessory structure? Was that the total including the solar panels?
No, somewhere in here, it actually talks about the fact that a solar panel may be, I think it's like 12, when it's raised, it can be raised a certain amount over the existing.
But as a
roof.
ground mount, it shall not exceed 15.
Right,
Okay, I got that. I didn't see where it really was real, because it just
Yeah, I don't see where that's addressed either, where
Yeah.
it's
I mean,
actually,
you can put them on top of your building, but it doesn't really say, you know, is a building can be 25 and that can be 15 feet above that? I don't know. But as another point of, if maybe there was some clarity as far as pointing out that where the portions that are being changed, so that a council person or Joe Public could actually look at it and see what we're talking about.
I mean, that's all in the planning commission packets, but, I have included those in the past and I've been asked not to because of just size, so I haven't been doing it lately. That may have been something that we wound up taking out. Cause I know there was a point in some where I thought we had talked about, oh, we do. So, it says roof mounted SES, which is a solar, energy system, shall not exceed the combined height of the building and the roof mounted SES when oriented at maximum tilt. So yes, you're right, that
Yeah, 25 feet
at
tall.
maximum tilt, it cannot exceed the 25 feet.
What line are we on?
But most of the systems that go on the roofs and tilt, don't tilt very much. They actually only tilt 6 to 12 inches, something like that.
Where was that, Alan, that you just walked out on, what page was that?
I have no idea what pages it is in the
Oh.
packet. It is number, under, where it says on-site ground-mounted solar energy system, it's number 3 under that.
Okay, I got it.
but that does mean if your building's already 25 feet, you can't do it at all, correct?
Well, you can't do something that tilts.
That follows the
I mean, they have systems that they're static, and they just adhere to the roof, and then you also have those that actually tilt. So there are so many different systems out there.
Thank you, I'm just not up on the solar
Well-
energy stuff too much. Councilman Palladino?
So does the law currently require this 25-foot maximum on building and buildings and 15 feet off the ground, or is that new?
We increased the overall accessory building height from 15 feet to 25 feet.
And then the ground mounted, is that new, or that was a prior requirement?
You mean as far as ground mounted solar, anything referring to a solar energy system is new.
Oh, okay. Oh, great.
But the language about ground mounted STS shall not exceed 15 feet measured from the ground to the top of the system is old language.
No, that's actually new. Anything referring to the solar energy system in the ordinance is brand new. There was no mention of it in the old
Oh,
ordinance.
so that's all part of the solar energy system bold. It's not just that first paragraph, it's the whole. All that's, okay, all right.
Could you give me a picture of the setback requirements? I mean, how big of a lot are you gonna have?
Well,
to be eligible?
the setback requirements are essentially the same setback requirements as you currently have for accessory structures. Most residential systems are very small. So, you're not going to, I wish Eric were here, because he has one in his house, and he pretty much he can power most of his house, in addition to his car. And he only put it on the one side of his home's roof. And he's able to power his car and for a good share of the day power his house. So, they don't have to be that big if it's residential. If you're talking about a municipal system, then you're talking about acres.
Could someone under this current ordinance take a vacant lot and fill it with solar panels?
Potentially.
Okay. We gotta.
Well, my question is it doesn't have to be an accessory to an existing residential structure.
I think it does, yes.
Yeah, so it couldn't be an empty lot, you'd have to have like a house or something.
I mean, if it were like the empty lot next to your house and you were planning on.
Okay, so no one can build in the Howell Street lot. They buy next to
That
them.
would have to be like a municipal project or something.
So no one could buy that lot, combine it with their own and fill it with solar panels?
So there's one other thing that I would interject, which is the legislature just passed a statute that for large solar energy systems, there will be no local regulation of them anymore. All of the regulation is gonna come from the state. You can have an ordinance, but it must comply with what the state requirements are. It must match it. So it can't be more restrictive than what the state requirements will be. So that's for large solar systems. It won't apply to the types that are in this ordinance. But yeah, if you were gonna have a lot and put a fairly decent sized system into it, you probably would fall under, and they do it by megawatt generation. So that's the way it defines the type of system you have in the new statute. You won't be able to enforce any local ordinance, basically, with respect to that. It'll all come from the state, where whoever wants to put in the system will apply for a permit with the state. And they'll look and see whether or not it meets their requirements.
I'm just having trouble getting a picture of this. Could my neighbor put a 15-foot high solar panel in their backyard that blocks my sunrise and sunset coming into my window? I mean, I guess I just don't know the scale of these, but that seems, fairly high.
This is I mean, 15 feet is twice the height of the door. So that would be at maximum tilt. And we used language from Michigan State Extension, who is actually writing most of the ordinances these days to help the state with their ordinances. So these wind up meeting also the state the state restrictions. So I mean, 15 feet is 15 feet. I mean, if that's sort of what's being looked at as the mainstream for standalone solar panels. But like I said, I mean, there are so many systems out there that range anywhere from 4 feet to fixed to 15 feet. I mean, they're all over the map
Right.
now.
Okay. Would that be a hazard or a nuisance if they're blocking?
Well, they would
light from my
all
house?
have to go. They would all have to be reviewed by. They would all have to be reviewed prior to installation. So those are some of the things that would be looked at.
For approval by the city?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Councilman Stucci.
Just to power on that, is there a limit on how high a fence can be in a residence?
6 feet.
6 feet?
Front and backyard. 4 feet in the front yard, 6 feet in the backyard.
Did you have a question, Councilman Sal?
Yeah, so a couple of questions. First, you mentioned Eric Moore and his successful project, but as I understand it, he doesn't pay anything to the BPU anymore.
I have no
Or
idea.
very-
That's between.
very
I
little.
honestly don't know. I just know that he likes to.
Right, so I have same concerns as Councilman Palladino about a 15-foot high structure being in somebody's backyard absorbing the sun's energy for their own production. That also takes money away from the BPU, which through a pilot program helps to finance the city. So here we are encouraging, wanting to pass an ordinance that encourages the citizenry to install solar panels that could be an eyesore for their neighbor or obstruct their neighbor's view.
No, the ordinance is to restrict it. If we don't pass the ordinance, then it's whatever the state regulations are.
But I'm saying we could, in the restrictions, I don't mind to have solar panels on roofs, but to have a standing solar panel in the backyard of a residence that's potentially 9 feet taller than the fence, that in some of these lots that have 0 lot lines, it can be 3 feet off the lot line. That just seems to be, it could be obtrusive and an eyesore. And then these lots that are on the corner of streets. Now we're driving down our beautiful streets, and all of a sudden there's these corner lots that have solar panels on the side of them. is that what we want the city to adopt and look like? I don't know. I tend to be opposed to having the ability to build solar panels, freestanding solar panels in the backyard. Mounting them on the roof like Eric Moore did, I think that's acceptable, but then, you know, at what limit do we do that? If the whole city adopts solar panels and the BPU stops selling electricity, you know, then what happens to the BPU? What happens to our revenue? I can see a lot of shortcomings and pitfalls, especially with the governor just passing the Agenda 2040 to have Michigan go completely green, which is a misnomer because all this stuff has to be produced by oil-consuming vehicles and machinery. So I can see incentives being given to the local citizenry to adopt solar panels for their houses, and as they continue to do that and it increases, the BPU's revenue to decrease. BPU's revenue decreases, then BPU's pilot to the city decreases, and it just is it can be a conundrum. I would prefer to see this, if we do want to amend the ordinance, to see it restrict ground-mounted systems entirely.
So your recommendation would be to return it to the planning commission to remove that language from it, or to add some more restrictions to it?
That and also to Councilman Veer's point about the wind energy, there's some wind energy instruments out there that produce no noise. And to completely just restrict that arbitrarily, I mean, wind is a 24/7 available resource if we're able to harness it, whereas solar is not. I would like to at least have that revisited as well, because to completely ban it just seems to be a bit extreme.
So if we rejected the ordinance, it would go back to planning commission, or you guys would just not revisit it again? Or could we reject it with conditions, or?
I mean, if you reject it, planning commission may or may not revisit it.
Okay.
If you reject it and want planning commission to revisit it with parameters, that's, you know, that would be fine too. But chances are planning commission is not going to take it and revisit it if you reject it without any type of feedback.
Okay, or we can amend the ordinance up here.
Or you
Because
can-
we are city council, we can just amend the ordinance. Yeah.
So could we put a restriction on the ground from, say, 6 feet, size of fence?
Would you guys just so we're not up here for 3 hours talking about this, would you guys want to bump this to one of the committees to do that, where they can hash out the details? Because I can see us being like, well, 3 feet, well, let's do 4.5 feet, and then 2 hours later we're nowhere. So, do you guys want to kick this ordinance to be reviewed by public services, or Councilman Beard?
Currently, Ellen, there's no restrictions, so they could put a ground-mounted solar system at 25 feet. Is there anything in the ordinance currently that restricts?
Currently, it would still, any improvement to your site has to go through the city. It has to go through the zoning office. And so, if without other parameters, I would just use the current guidelines for accessory structures, which is a maximum height of 15 feet. So, I mean, if they came in and said, I'm gonna put in, a freestanding solar array, and I'm not covering more than 30% of my site, and I'm going to be 3 feet off of my property lines, and I'm not going to exceed 15 feet, then it would, and as long as it doesn't go against the state restrictions, then I would probably pass it.
Because actually, I kind of like that, the fact that we do have the fences, 6 feet limit, just to limit it. But I don't think, we can't take this ordinance, Tom, and change that and then pass it with the 6 foot restriction on the ground mounted.
suggestion would either be to kick it to committee to hash out the details, or we're gonna be playing with this ordinance for the rest of the night. Or adopt the ordinance as it is right now and still kick it to committee to make the changes. That way we have some sort of restrictions in place already, and then a committee can review the ordinance.
That would have to go back through the planning commission process. So if you adopt it and you wanna have it amended, that has to go through the planning commission process.
Alright, well, so my suggestion would be to do that. That was a bad suggestion. But, maybe roll the dice that in 2 weeks somebody doesn't put up a 25-foot, solar tower or whatever. So it's up to you guys, but I've been up here before, guys, on these ordinances and talking and saying, well, let's amend this, but then we're out, then we're playing with it forever.
If I may make a suggestion, if you're going to kick it back to somebody, I think the appropriate procedure is to indicate that you want it to go back to the planning commission with the comment that you would like to see the height of the ground-mounted solar systems reduced to 60. The planning commission will have a meeting on that. The planning commission will then come back with the language for you, and that's typically the way it's done. That's the way under the statute they anticipate it'll be done, is that if it comes up to the council or the township board or whoever it is, as a zoning ordinance, and they decide they want some changes to it, they send it back to the planning commission to do that. That way, you're sure you've got the right kind of language in it, and then you'll get it back in a way that makes sense in terms of what they propose.
Fine with that too, however council wants to proceed.
And that would go for the wind as well?
I would appreciate that.
So do I have a motion to send it back to planning commission to change the guidelines on the solar, on the total height being 6 foot instead of 15 foot, and to review the wind?
Well, did you wanna do something with the 25 feet? Was that?
That was for buildings, that wasn't for.
that was for accessory structures.
And Councilman Morrissey, you're our representative on the planning commission, you'll make sure that.
Alan's right here, he'll make sure.
Yes.
Support.
Motion on the floor from Councilman Palladino, seconded by Councilman Stuchel. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you, Alan.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we'll move out of introduction, adoption of ordinances / public hearing and into old business. Item A, leaf collection update. Jason.
Good evening. As I wrote this last Thursday, we had a couple winter events that put us behind. I would like to say as of today, we're actually back on schedule with the exception of the highway. We'll be doing the highway tomorrow. We're going to run as much crews as we can to get caught up. The sweeper has not been out. I know we've been leaving a little more trails than usual to get caught up, but it should be back to normal hopefully tomorrow.
Awesome. You guys did, I think you did a really good job this year, Jason. So,
Appreciate that.
any questions for Jason? Councilman Soha?
I was just curious, how much does the sweeper cost the city an hour approximately?
The street sweeper or the trackless?
The sweeper, the new sweeper we bought,
So that is about $130 an hour to run.
including labor or just for the,
That's just for the that's with a person in it, correct?
with the person in it?
Correct.
Okay. And then to follow up, I know this doesn't exactly have to do with leaves, but how often is it our goal to run that on the streets?
We try to get out 45 times a year to do the whole system. Last year when we had our last sweeper, we could only do about half to 3/4 of the system because of the vacuum unit. Just the old nasty streets that Kristen was talking about earlier, it couldn't pick them up. This one, we can actually pick up a lot more than we had. The problem we're having right now is not really a problem, but the manpower and then the winter events try to get enough. Because the same vehicles we use for leaf pickup is the same ones we use for switching over to winter maintenance as well. So it's quite getting this someone to actually run the sweeper.
The reason I ask is because, like, driving down Broad Street or down South Howell by the hospital and the new pavement we have there, I just noticed
the collection of leaves, and I've actually stopped and cleaned the gutters a number of times right there at where we built the new drain to the culvert that we built. And I was just wondering if that might be something that we could consider giving the sweeper some attention to on a more regular basis. Some of our newer streets, just to keep those, if the budget and the manpower allow for it, I just think it would, the broken glass theory.
Sure. Now, the highway will be done. We have not picked up leaves in the highway yet. That's what I was saying. Tomorrow we'll get to that. So that will get a sweeping on it. Hall Street, that was one that we just did after winter maintenance. If we can get to it, we definitely will do that as well. The highway for sure will get done, and we'll try to get in what we can on the rest. A couple other things I had for you real quick too. We're kind of in the same ballpark as what we picked up from last year. Round one this year, we picked up 2,200 cubic yards. Last year at this time, and just round one, I apologize, was 2,800 cubic yards. So still about the same. I definitely, round two last year, we only picked up 200 cubic yards. Round two to date, right now, we're at 841, so we are gonna get a lot more cubic yards this year than we got last year.
Thank you.
That's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you, Jason.
Appreciate it. Oh, any other questions? Or-
No. No, we're good, bud. Thank you. Alrighty, we'll move on to old business into new business. Item A, set public hearing to rezone 3005 West Carlton Road, and this is just to set the public hearing for January 16th, 2024. Did you have something to add to that, Alan?
No, just in case you had any questions as to why that you needed to set the public hearing.
Anybody got anything for Alan?
Just enlighten me where this is.
It is the, you know where Mystic Car Care now is?
Okay, yep, got
It's
it.
that, it's that area between Wicker Works
Yep.
and Railroad Bed.
Very good.
On the south side of where Mystic Car Care is now.
Okay.
That vacant lot between the two buildings, they're two vacant.
It's the, you know where the new Mystic Car Care building is?
Correct, right behind Taco Bell.
Yeah, okay, and then there's a vacant lot that is just south of the new Mystic building, but between where the Wicker Works, property ends and the railroad bed begins.
Right. And it's on this side of the trail, on the
On which side?
on the
On
street
on
side
the
of the
west
trail.
side of the trail?
Yes.
Yes. No, the trail actually goes out to M99 along
Right,
there.
that's right. So I mean, the M99 side of the railroad tracks is what I
Yes.
forget. Thank you.
Did you have something, Councilman Palladino?
Does the general business district not allow for storage facilities, or is there some
Does
benefit
not.
for changing it? Just simply doesn't
It
allow?
does not allow.
Thank you.
Any more questions? Entertain a motion to set the public hearing for January 16th.
Support.
Motion on the floor from Councilman Morrissey, seconded by Councilman Beard, to set the public hearing for January 16th, 2024. All in favor? Any opposed? The ayes have it. Alright, we'll move to item B in new business, citizen participation plan amendment adoption. Alan.
So, the citizen participation plan is simply a policy that the city adopts and has to amend or at least update every 5 years. It just documents how we go about interacting with the public for different types of meetings. There were a couple of things that needed to be updated. One was the fact that we advertise in the Hillsdale Daily News, and the Hillsdale Daily News is no longer a 7-day newspaper like it was when we adopted the citizen participation plan originally. So that had to be updated. And then we added the library board. Somehow we had that was an oversight back when we created this back in 2015. So this is just an amendment to that policy, and then it just needs to be readopted by City Council.
Alright, easy enough. Any questions for Alan? Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion to approve the adoption of the amended citizen participation plan.
So moved. Second.
Motion on the floor from Councilman Morrissey, seconded by Councilman Sharp. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. All right, we will move on to item C in new business, road diet traffic study. Boy, Alan, you got a lot of stuff on the
I know,
agenda
I know.
tonight.
I don't come to council for how long and then I'm here like the entire night. So, as Councilman Veer had pointed out, the upcoming proposed project to repave M99 from Hallett to Broad Street is an opportunity for the city to do what is referred to as a road diet, where we would reduce the number of traffic lanes from 4 to 3, with one of those lanes being a designated left turn lane. Something that that was included in the master plan in order to make our city more walkable and more business friendly for our downtown. It was something that we had approached MDOT to start discussing back in 2020. Actually, we were the last, we had one in-person meeting with MDOT to discuss it. It was the last in-person meeting MDOT held before Lansing shut everything down because of COVID. But now that everything's back in the planning and back in face-to-face, when MDOT proposed the project for 2026 to repave it, the planner at MDOT remembered the fact that we wanted to do a road diet and actually contacted us and said, hey, this is a really good opportunity to do what we wanted to do now when they're going to be redoing the paving. But in order to do that, we need a new traffic study, because the traffic study that we were utilizing back in 2020 is no longer current. And so we need to have a new traffic study. Wade Trim, which is the engineering firm that did the traffic study for us back in 2016, I believe it was, they are able to update and amend our traffic study. And I also asked them to include some time for one of the engineers to come and talk to the public because we'll have to have a public meeting to educate the public as to what we want to do as far as what a road diet is, what we're planning to do with the road diet, and that type of thing. So that's what this proposal is.
Okay, I like it. Any questions for Alan? Councilman Sharp?
What was the cost back in 2016?
Right around 10 or 12,000, I think.
Okay.
Any more questions? Councilman Beard?
And then this project, Alan's gonna cost us, is it 13,000?
Inflation.
Yeah, some change. But part of it too, it says that it's from North Street to Steenberg.
So the road diet would be from actually from Carlton to Steenberg. The paving project actually starts at Hallett, which is where they stopped the paving with the last project, and will continue. So there's a little bit of overlap there.
Okay.
But most of what we're proposing as far as our changes to do the road diet are mostly just traffic markings. There are a few intersection changes that we would like to do just to clean up some things, but for the most part, it's just restriping.
And that's probably, you think, maybe half mile?
Huh?
Is there about a half mile of road there, maybe?
I have no idea. Do you know how far it is from Hallett to North Broad?
Pretty close to half an hour.
Half mile.
You're right.
Councilman Stuchel?
So if we go through this diet, we take a couple lanes out, does MDOT cover those costs?
So some of the costs will be ours anyway, but that's one of the other reasons why why the traffic study is important is because there is a grant available to cover a lot of the costs, but one of the other things that they require is a traffic study. I mean, MDOT requires a traffic study to do the road diet, and then in order to apply for this grant, we also need the data
But
from
the actual
traffic.
construction of the road, because it's a state highway.
Is going to be a state project. Yeah.
Councilman Sharp?
This is the same thing Jones will just propose too, correct? Thank you.
Did you have something, Councilman Pelican?
Will this actually reduce the width of the road surface?
No, no. It
So just parking?
So what, it'll allow us to add some parallel parking in some areas, but it will also, allow us to add a bike route as well through the downtown, something that is also in the master plan as far as improving and increasing, non-motorized traffic through the downtown.
And it'll slow down traffic in
And
the
it will slow down
downtown, which
traffic
is
as well.
gonna be a real
Right.
benefit.
Which is one of the other things, because that will also reduce noise.
Get
and-
people to stop and look
Yeah,
around for a
and
second
And
instead
it
of
will
just
be, and
rushing
it will
through
be
it.
much friendlier for pedestrian traffic. I don't know if you walk around the downtown at all, like I do, but there are some areas that are somewhat treacherous to cross.
Councilman Sola?
Just like to make a statement, living on South Broad Street, cars are always racing from the vacant light, and I've screamed at them more than once. Not that it's to any avail, but, I mean, they're up to 50, 60 miles an hour by the time they pass my house, and motorcycles too, and having single lane traffic where they're gonna be stymied by a tractor trailer or something else is very attractive to me.
I mean, it's never gonna take a long time to get through Hillsdale, but I think it's a good idea to try to slow the traffic down. So,
Sorry.
Keep going.
Continue. Where is the budget coming from for the 13.7, and is it possible to use the grant money to reimburse ourselves from it if we would?
No, on that one. It would be part of our match, and that other question is a question for Mr. Mack.
It would be absorbed in the planning, department budget.
So I'm paying for it, apparently.
all right, any more discussion, or do we wanna approve this?
I move to approve the road traffic study.
Motion on the floor from Councilman Soha, seconded by Councilman Stuchel, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you, Alan. All right, we will move on to item letter D, a new business annual right-of-way permit for MDOT. Jason?
Yes, each year, MDOT, mandatory to do adopt a resolution, for the purpose of issuing individual permits to use on this M99 right-of-way within the city boundaries. This resolution would allow, BPU director, police chief, and myself to, obtain and authorize the permits on the city's behalf.
Simple. Any questions for Jason?
See it every year.
No. Entertain a motion to adopt the attached resolution.
So moved.
Motion on the floor from Councilman Sharp, seconded by Councilman Soha, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. All right, and our final item in new business, letter E, bid award City Hall carpet replacement. Jason, you're already up there.
Thank you. Earlier this year, with help of city engineer, city staff put out a bid for carpet within the council chambers and the conference room here at City Hall. First time this went out, we received 0 bidders. Last several weeks, we worked again and put it out, contacted many contractors over the phone. We did receive one back from Willowbrook Interiors. Willowbrook Interiors, they did offer a base bid and they put an alternate bid in there as well. Their base bid is for what's called broadloom, just rolled carpeting, for $17,434.20. They put an alternate bid in for the council chambers and the conference room for a total of $32.63. on top of the 17,000 to install carpet tiles instead of the rolled carpet. And the reason being is that they put on here, and I did a lot of research on this as well, with the broadly rolled carpet, especially in these high traffic areas with the chairs and traffic, it's more prone to stretching, wrinkling, raveling at the edges and so forth. So they recommended putting carpet tiles, which is 24 by 24 inch carpet tile down, cuts away the waste, maintenance, someone spills something on it, you just remove a piece of carpet, 24 by 24. No delamination, and the best part about it is it's supposedly don't wrinkle, so they won't get these big sags in the carpet like see over here, they're just big carpet, right in front of it. People trip on them every day when we're up here, we see it. So my recommendation or staff recommendation would be to go to the alternate bid. Now the alternate bids is about $697 over we have budgeted in the 23-24 fiscal year budget. But that would be my recommendation for council to approve it as presented.
Okay. So the bid for the rolled carpet is for just glued down carpet, not for a carpet stretched over padding.
Yes, sir. Yeah, this right here is glued.
This is what we have right now.
Correct, sir.
Okay. I mean, people can trip on the carpet tiles too, but whatever. Councilman Stuchel?
What's underneath this carpet?
Wood.
Is it nice?
We're gonna find out.
I mean,
I bet it is.
I bet it is too. White carpeting, stick it out.
I'm totally amenable to that if that's where we choose to go.
Yeah. Somebody get in here and pull this quarter round up and pull up a corner so we can see what it is, and hopefully it's been down long enough that the glue is easily scraped up. 'Cause I'm sure it's
We have an
glued.
acoustic issue, but I mean, I think it'd be probably a beautiful floor.
Probably would be. If we approve this right there, then that's just off the table, or we can pull it up and say, hey, we found out that we've got these lovely wood floors underneath.
I can talk with Willowbrook and see if they'll let us do some investigating first.
Okay.
And then I know me and Brandon want to do some work underneath here as well. We're trying to plan that at the same time as the carpet coming up to start realigning some electrical wiring and stuff.
That's good thought, Councilman Stuchel. Councilman Soha?
Could we just table this till next meeting and you guys do some investigation in the next 2 weeks?
I'm amenable to that.
You guys okay with that? And later?
Yeah, I'm fine with that. I can do it in about 13 seconds after the meeting's done, actually. And now I'm curious to see what's under there.
I move to table this until next meeting with Jason's team looking to see what's underneath.
I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jason. Alrighty. No proclamations, no appointments. Moving to general public comment. During this time, the podium will be open. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes. Please limit your trips to 1 to the podium, and you may speak on whatever your heart so desires. The podium's now open.
Hi, if you do get rid of this carpet, what would be the odds that you'd be willing to sell it?
Probably pretty low.
You wouldn't want to sell it? Or, I mean, I don't know, my husband could tear it up if we need it torn up, that's what we do, but this carpet's beautiful.
Yeah. If we sell stuff, I think we gotta put it out to make it available to everybody to buy, and I'm not sure. It's something we could look into though.
Can you?
Sure.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
I'd like to touch on Councilman Beer's comments. Thank you for asking so many questions, Mr. Beer. I appreciate that. It's very disheartening to know the city has maxed us out on mills, imposing this road millage and then wanting to double dip the taxpayers with special assessments. Same with Councilman Soha. It's also disheartening to hear the restrictions being put on little wind generators and solar. Is our planning commission buttering BPU's revenue with these restrictions? I mean, we're all users of power. Why would they want us to use wind and solar? Right? I just don't understand. We got the state pushing it, but you guys are putting all these restrictions on solar and power around here. I mean, a little wind generator, I can't see making any noise like Mr. Soha explained. They're virtually silent. And I don't understand why the city wouldn't want to help the residents either, to save money, to save the consumption of power. I just don't really get it. You know, the only thing that I can think of is it's gonna hurt BPU's pocketbook. Well, the future is wind and solar according to our governor. I mean, and everybody should, I think, consume power if they can. I mean, it's not getting any better in the state of Michigan as far as the economy. I just read an article that, you know, several articles, people are moving out, we're in a recession. I don't see any help from much of this council when you're trying to restrict the average resident on ways to save power. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. Any more public comment?
In August of 2021, I made a donation to Tifa with some restrictions. If they didn't use it in 2 years, that I got it back. They never used it. They actually never spoke about it even in the 2 years, which kind of surprised me. It was meant for the kids of the community, actually. But now it seems like I can't get my money back for some reason. I guess I'm not sure why.
You're broke.
I heard that the lady, whoever it is, has been sick for a couple, 3 months. That was one excuse I heard. One councilman said he didn't think that that money should be able to be refunded, which I'm not sure why if you put specifications on it. I know, well, I don't know this, but I'm just taking it for granted that Tifa probably gets hundreds of thousands of dollars donated from private people every year, probably. And I can understand they wouldn't want to send that money back. But I know that I did give money to the city once because they didn't have money to re-vote when someone tried to get their good buddy in on the city council. They didn't meet the standards to be on city council. So supposedly my donation there went to that. And if the city's broke and they need the money, just let me know. Otherwise, it's probably gonna go to the Salvation Army for Christmas or something. And I just still can't understand why Tifa never even spoke about it in 2 years. Just doesn't make any sense to me. Thank you.
Thanks, Jack. Any more public comment?
I just had a technical piece on that. In the finance committee notes, we had on page 3, a refund to Jack McLean for the Don Theater movie.
Okay.
It's like,
Thanks for bringing that up, Councilman Wolfman.
Excuse me, I didn't hear it.
In the minutes, there's a refund to you.
on the for the finance committee notes that we just had earlier today or this evening, there's a line that says refund donation Don Theater movie Jack McLean.
So they would have approved the refund tonight.
I went through the packet before I even come here, and Tifa did not give any money this period at all. So that's why I brought that up.
I see.
Thank you.
Okay.
I see.
issue to them, giving them an opportunity to get coordinated with how the state is about to make it happen. In a little bit of light that's this year, 3-lane issue, we do have it over in Jonesville. We looked at it, we asked for a trial to be done. In other words, not do the road, but put in those bike lanes. MDOT did it the last time, and frankly, it's kind of a lopsided mess. And now they're suggesting that we change as well the lights and where they're going to be placed. So the bike lane sounds great, but there's no extension of that going further out on US 12 or coming down 99. They're telling us to take bike paths. So really take a look at how these things are going to be completed by MDOT. And then there's not a problem with covering up those lines, but they can be discovered by drivers. And so I wouldn't say cover them up, I'd say redo, absolutely. The other was under the state in which the governor, I think Mr. Soha mentioned, I believe it was 2050 to be insured that we were going to be there by the governor. 2030 that Hillsdale to try to be as complete as possible under the solar energy issue. I don't know where that's going to leave a lot of us. We're trying to be pushed into having to take solar, and we talked today to people in Marshall about the battery plant and how these unfunctionable electric cars are going to be. How are we going to take care of ourselves? One car cost about $73,000, and in about 5 years, the engine itself is not that durable and would cost about $35,000 to replace it. With the other idea of we couldn't push that solar car out of that 1 inch the other day we had snow. 1 inch. We couldn't push it, 5 of us. Too heavy. Are you kidding me? You'll never make it down the traffic road with these existing, 240 miles for, and then you gotta recharge. It's kind of a pathetic idea. Thank you very much for listening to me. The other, I don't know where it's gonna go, but I hope, again, I try to reiterate the idea that voting is very, very important to me, and as well as many other veterans, that we need to be more concerned about taking our children to showing that one day that has been there forever that we need to vote. Please bring your grandchildren or children or influence others to come in to vote. This absentee ballot stuff is the only way we can cheat, and I don't believe it's the right thing to do. Just to make it short, Mr. Abe Dane, running for county clerk, suggested that the Hillsdale County, will do the programming. Come on. You guys don't do the programming. Let somebody else do the programming. We don't want the county to program our voting. It's silly. But thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Bob. Any more public comment? Seeing none, we'll close the podium and move into the city manager's report. Dave?
Thank you, Mayor. Just a few things to mention. I want to thank everyone who helped and participated in the light up parade. I think that was a huge success, and everyone that I've heard and really enjoyed it, particularly WCSR with their radio announcements and that. They really played up the city well, and all those who participated. So just want to thank everyone for that. Next meeting, we will have a presentation under communication on the state of the hospital. Many of you have probably heard, all over the country, rural hospitals are closing down, and we can be thankful that we actually have a strong hospital. Coldwater's in trouble. All these small hospitals around us are struggling. So we're going to have Mr. Hodshire come and give his presentation on the state of the hospital to the council. Also at that meeting, prior to that meeting, we have the mayor's reception for that, for the volunteers and board members who help participate in city planning and events. Also, just so everyone is aware here, it is time for us to go out for RFPs on the rubbish collection within the community, and so that is out to bid right now. The current contract ends June 31st, or January 31st, so a new one is supposed to start February 1st. So that, like I said, that request for proposals is out, and so we shall have that information probably, I think it's the first week of January. Also, we will have information at our next meeting on our insurance program with Chris on our invested risk, any travelers or Trident who we're currently insured with. So last thing I wanted to mention is another positive thing here coming up this weekend for the holidays is the Hillsdale Arts Chorale. Presents their Reflections of Christmas concert, 3 p.m. Sunday, so December 10th at College Baptist Church. They're always a great show and terrific singers. So.
Very good, Dave. Thank you. Any questions for Dave? Thank you, City Manager. Council comment. Councilman Stuchel.
Yeah, I just want to update everybody on the luminary walk was last night, and the weather didn't cooperate and all that, but it was quite successful. There was a lot of learning going through this, but again, the intent was to connect the hospital and the college. The hospital had people out there, and so did the college. Hillsdale Street was phenomenal. Everything from, I think, Handmade, at least up to Fayette Street on both sides of the street was covered, so they did a really wonderful job. The south side of House Street was well done. The south part of Bud Lawn was also well done. I'll even go as far as say that probably one of the best decorated Christmas houses on Broad Street had some, but it's hard to see through all the Christmas decorations. Hillsdale County National Bank took on 2 blocks. St. Anthony, with the help of the Catholic Society, some college students took on a whole block. I attempted to do the wedge, and I failed. I probably had 100 some out there, but it wet and wind, and so that didn't work very well. So I just want to take my hats off to Gene Heisey and my wife Heather Triska, because they did a lot of work up front of that. So I think it was a success, even despite the weather, and definitely want to build on it for next year. And I think Drew said he sold 4,000 bags. So had a lot of good cooperation, and ideally this expands, yeah. So this expands. I said, we'll have an event to come to at Hillsdale once a year. So very good. Thank you.
Exactly. Like all traditions usually have a hiccup or so first couple years, but people stick with it, and it builds and it builds. So I thought it was an awesome effort. So anybody else? Councilman Beer?
For the light up parade, I had the honor to work with the public service on setting up the barriers for the parade, both kind of staging them in the morning, and the amount of work that entails, getting all those barriers up. I think my eyes were open a little bit, but in that, because it is a many people effort. I know Scott Hepner with the police department setting up barriers, tearing them down. Actually, when we were tearing them down, it's pretty dark. The squad cars coming up, giving me some protection with their lights and everything. But one thing became perfectly clear when I was doing this with Frank, a public service employee, was that the DPS building that houses all the trucks that they need to do all the services that this council requires them is at the least very inadequate as far as space. Because when they park the trucks in there, they actually don't have any lanes left because they have to put all the trucks in to where they have to spend time just removing trucks to get access to other trucks. And I think in this upcoming budget, if we could find some way to give them a little bit better working space where that would make them much more efficient on their time, and they aren't wasting time moving vehicles so they can get at what they need to, whether it be the road closure signs and barriers. I think it would be very beneficial because also we're requiring them to do a lot more and would make them able to accomplish that in a much more efficient manner.
Thank you, Councilman Beer, for that enlightening information. And thanks for helping with the light up, right? That's awesome. Councilman Soha.
And he helped out with the Veterans Day event as well, so thank you for that. I just wanted to say I'm opposed to the governor's trying to get Michigan to be, or signed into law that Michigan will be green energy only by 2040. Because my sister lives in Southern California, and their governor passed similar legislation recently, and her gas bill has gone up 50%, her electric bill has gone up 50 or 60%, her water bill has gone up 50 or 60% in the last 2 years. And this is what green energy policies do, and green energy is a misnomer, and it's really irritating to me that it keeps getting propagated as this clean and efficient alternative to oil or coal, for that matter. The new filters on coal power plants make it an extremely clean and an efficient medium, and there's plenty of coal right in our backyard. Same with the natural gas powered power plants, same with nuclear energy. And then here we are encouraging our residents to adopt solar panels just because we're even discussing it and putting it in an ordinance. And as far as I remember, Mr. Moore, and God bless him, he has a great project that was very successful, but he rarely pays any money to the BPU anymore. So the BPU's actually lost a customer. And we receive a substantial portion of our budget from the BPU's pilot payment. So this is a conundrum that I can see could be a catastrophic locally and especially statewide. And the only way I know to overturn what the governor signed would be legislatively, which isn't going to happen with a democratically controlled government, or through a petition to be signed by 600,000 residents and then put on the ballot. And we can make it into law that Michigan won't be a green state. But remember, every solar panel has to be manufactured with oil-producing products. Every wind turbine has to be manufactured with oil-producing products. Every battery for these electric vehicles has to come from a strip mine and produced with oil-producing products. And so I would encourage us as a council, us as a city, and our constituents to really look into the true cost of this green energy and see if there's something that we can do collectively to go back to our state government and say, this is too far, we need to reverse these things. And as far as locally for us, for example, this law that the governor passed, if we pass something locally, the state has the authority to overturn it through that law. So we're no longer the governing authority as far as electricity is concerned for our own municipal utility in certain scenarios if the powers that be in Lansing deem it so. So I just want us to be aware of these things, and especially that green energy is a misnomer and it's actually a lie, and it should be refuted at every level, and I choose to do that tonight.
Thank you, Councilman Soha. Any more comments?
Enough of the dread, boo and all that. Let's have a feel-good talk. Company I work for just recently took a pickup truck, fixed it up, turned around and sold it. Then they went out and bought $6,000 worth of coats, winter coats. Took them to the Salvation Army and dropped them off. Didn't want any credit for it. They just did it out of the kindness of their heart. And I think that's the kind of thing we need more around Hillsdale. And I'm proud to work for that company. I won't mention their names because they don't want the publicity, but you all know where I work. And I think that's great what they did. That's what we need more people to do, to take care and help other people when they're down. And that $6,000 and all those coats they took will help people. And I appreciate working for them. And I just wanted to let you guys know they did this. Thank you.
That's awesome, Councilman Sharp. Thank you for sharing that. Any more council comment? Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Motion on the floor from Councilman Beer, seconded by Councilwoman Pratt to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Meeting adjourned.